Diaries of a Madman. Written by What Must I Do? Chapter 2, Blue Moon, Part 2. Morning found me curled up in the guest bed Applejack designated for me. When I asked her about the shitload of rooms she had, she mentioned something about having room for harvest. We were pretty busy looking at an unconscious Pegasus at the time, so I wasn't really paying much attention. Knowing how Applejack feels about her apples in her trees, she probably stores the apples in those rooms and puts them to bed during harvest. Why else would she need such a large farmhouse for 4 ponies is beyond me. Knowing nothing about the house other than the way in and out, I just laid back and waited. With my luck, I would have to wound up in someone else's room, or seeing something I shouldn't see. I don't know, a sacrificial altar to the apple gods or something. Not long after I woke up, I heard something bustling about below. It was a farmhouse, so I guess it really shouldn't surprise me that people were up early. Now what did surprise me was an assault by a blur of a yellow fur that coalesced into a small pony called Apple Bloom. This was Applejack's little sister, a little filly always looking for a way to get her cutie mark, which is a tattoo ponies get on their ass that marks their lot in life. Sounds too confining to me, that I've mentioned that to some of the ponies, but none of them seem to agree. Anyway, I had met Apple Bloom a few times before, and each time she seemed to be trying some new harebrained scheme with her 2 friends. They tried dragging me into once, but they relented when I told them they were too small to be an Amazon warrior ponies.
Get up, sleepyhead!
She yelled at me, pouncing on my bed. I am awake, Pipsqueak. Who else is up? I heard someone else moving around.
I ain't gonna tell you. You gotta tell me what you did to Rainbow Dash first. She isn't awake yet, but she looks awful.
Rainbow Dash helped us with an experiment. I don't suggest being around when she wakes up. It'll be unpleasant.
What did you do to her?
Ask your sister. If she thinks you should know, she'll tell you. As it stands, I don't. I will tell you this, though. Don't look to get your cutie mark that way, since that was an experiment we won't be repeating.
Aw, you old ponies take all the fun out of everything.
Not quite a pony, but whatever. If you knew some of the things I considered fun, you wouldn't be so sad about that. Anyway, who else is awake?
Just Big Macintosh and me. So far, and you, I guess. Applejack is usually awake by now. I don't know why she's still asleep.
Let her sleep, I say. I'll probably wander off to Rainbow Dash's room in a bit. She'll wake up feeling terrible, disoriented and confused, which is not a good combination for someone that can fly sonic fast like her.
Do you want breakfast? I help make it.
Remembering the stories I had heard about her, I somewhat ungraciously declined. Religious reasons. I can't eat this early in the morning.
What's religion?
Never mind. A few hours later found me and Applejack in front of a finely stirring Rainbow Dash. Remember, talk quietly, I whispered. She'll probably heard enough. Applejack nodded with a smile on her face. Rainbow Dash groaned and tried to open her eyes, saw the glare of the sun, and immediately forced them shut. She croaked.
What happened? Everything hurts. Morning, morning, sunshine.
Applejack boomed, and Rainbow Dash winced and I glared at Applejack. She just smiled and whispered,
Couldn't help it.
Anyway, I said quietly, the experiment was a success, and we'll never do that again. We'll talk about it later after you feel a bit better. We have arranged some things that'll help you, namely a few empty buckets and some buckets of water. Drink all the water you can hold, then drink some more. Come down when you stop feeling like death. Until then, call if you need anything.
Yeah, we'll send Big Macintosh to help you.
Applejack teased.
Why would you send him? This whole mess is your fault.
Rainbow Dash replied.
So she doesn't remember. This'll be fun.
Applejack said.
Don't remember what?
Rainbow Dash groaned. Before Applejack could respond, I said, Rainbow Dash, recuperate, stop talking unless it's important, and do your best not to think, as that will make it hurt worse. The water will help. Applejack's eyes started walking to the door.
Wait, remember what? What did I?
That last bit was cut off by the closing door. That was mean, I said.
Maybe, but it was also funny.
You raise a good point. After another awkward wait, spent with both of us being pestered by Apple Bloom, Rainbow Dash tenderly extricated herself from her room. The first thing she said,
Never again.
The second thing she said,
Seriously, never again.
The third,
Now, what happened? I don't remember anything after getting to the farm.
nothing much. I told her. We tested your ability to talk and think rationally, and we let Big Macintosh flirt with you. We let you try to fly, let you try to walk. You weren't able to fly or walk, and your attempts were very humorous. Your speech was slurred, and your mind wandered a lot.
Wait, what was the second one?
She asked. We let you try to fly. Your head is still probably fuzzy. I'm certain it hurts.
I don't think that's what you said. Did you really let...
And now you're being paranoid. Applejack, mark it down as another symptom, would you? She pretended to write something down, which was interesting, as she has no thumbs, or paper, or a pencil. Rainbow Dash gave us the oddest look I've ever seen. I swear she thought we were retarded at that point. We both looked back as innocently as we could.
So, when can I leave?
She finally asked. If you really feel up for flying, you can leave whenever. Just be careful. The bright light will be painful and disorienting at first. Thanks for your help.
You're not welcome. I still don't know why you had to have me for this experiment.
We had to have you because Twilight or Rarity would be too dangerous with their magic, Fluttershy would be too afraid to take the risk, and Pinkie Pie would be very, very, very scary if she got drunk. I've heard your stories about her manic depressive states. Alcohol could seriously unbalance her.
Then you better not be making any more of this stuff,
She said.
especially if it's as popular at parties as you say.
Don't worry. I have no intentions of making more. I lied.
Good. I'll see you both later.
With that, she walked out and very unsteadily took off. I feel like we should feel guilty for this, I said.
Nah, she wasn't permanently hurt.
We did sort of accidentally make her reveal a secret she didn't want to.
Yeah, but it's not like it's gonna hurt her. I mean, I ain't gonna do nothing with it.
And I can't do much with it. Not that I even would, but still.
I reckon you'll get used to us eventually.
She said with a smirk.
Now, I gotta get to work. I'm sure Twilight's probably wondering what's taking you so long.
Yeah. She's a cruel taskmistress. I'll see you later, Applejack. We parted company soon after. I didn't mention Luna's visit to her. Upon learning about my experiments, if not all the results, Twilight was not overly pleased. She knew, of course, and that I was planning something, but she did not know what and against whom.
She could have been hurt.
She exclaimed. Yes, she could have. However, even your experiments with magic run a risk of hurting someone. Like, me. But I've heard stories, back where I came from, of people getting horses drunk. I must admit, the truth of it was a lot funnier than the stories were. Though maybe that's just because my experiment was on a sentient being.
This isn't a joke, you know. She really could have been hurt.
You already said that, and I already admitted you are correct. What's done is done, though. And at least now I know where I won't be starting my life in this new world. Not like you ponies need booze anyway. I can't imagine many of you having terrible things in your past who won't forget.
That doesn't mean it's okay.
I know, but I stand by it. I'm more interested in what happened after anyway.
Oh, and what could have been interesting enough to take your mind off your valuable experiment?
Oh, Rainbow Dash had already passed out by then. I was walking around in the fields when Princess Luna dropped by and started talking to me.
Princess Luna?
Twilight gasped in surprise.
What was she doing out there?
Looking for someone to talk to. She thought I was one of her subjects, which, I guess, in a way, I am now. Anyway, we got to talking, and she's very lonely, apparently. I invited her to talk to me, if she's ever in the neighborhood and I'm still awake. I also invited her to the festival coming up in a few weeks. I hope you don't mind.
Not at all. Though, it seems weird to have a princess coming to visit. Shouldn't we prepare every pony? Or formally greet her as Princess deserves?
Nah, I mean, you could. But I don't care too much about titles or shit like that. She may be a princess, but to me, she's just a lonely person that needs someone to talk to. The dark stuff she did in the past alienated her from the entire pony community, aside from her sister. I wasn't around when any of that stuff happened, so I can honestly talk to her with no feeling of fear or residual mistrust. She needs some way to make friends and meet her subjects. I figured this party thing might have a decent way to do that. We might have to help her a bit, though, since her speech patterns haven't changed in 1,000 years. She uses archaic grammar and occasionally lapses into a booming voice.
Well, of course Princess Luna is welcome here as far as I'm concerned. Hopefully we can get her more acclimated to how things work now. You'll have to tell me more about your plans for the Nightmare Night Festival.
It's called what? That did not come out as a question. Twilight saw it as a question, of course. Any chance to explain some obscure tradition was good in her books. The festival was, as I said, innocuous to Halloween. The added bit was that not dressing up would cause Nightmare Moon to come and eat you, or something. Near the end of the night, some of the candy each child collected was donated as a sacrifice to Nightmare Moon statue, or something. Now, anyone reading this should be able to see a bit of a problem here. Luna was coming to this festival dedicated to being afraid of her alternate personality. I tried explaining this dilemma to Twilight.
She's not Nightmare Moon anymore, Nav,
Was the answer.
and we'll be able to help her prepare for her visit when she meets us in Fluttershy's home, which was a good choice, by the way. If what you say about Princess Luna's voice is true, Fluttershy can help her learn to speak gently. It'll be fine, Nav, and you made the right choice inviting her.
I shrugged and sighed. Too late to recall the invite anyway. I quite like having my head attached to the rest of my body.
That's the spirit.
Ugh, I knew I shouldn't have taught her gallows humor.
Now, care to help me and Spike with some chores?
I'll be the first to admit it. I was surprised when Princess Luna actually did come by. I was more surprised that it was the first night after the offer. I said as much as I reached up to grab my coat for a walk.
We had a bit of free time,
She explained.
There's not much to rule over when the kingdom is sleeping. If there was any real emergency, the courtiers would rather wake my sister than bring it to us. Anyway,
She continued with more than a little bitterness. It was quite a chilly night, and as befitted the cold season, a pale mist greeted every word. The weak street lights barely lit the road, and while the nearly empty moon reflected gently off the glass windows, it was a night of lights which I had rarely greeted back in my world. Surely you could deal with a big incident just as well as your sister. You both spent a long time ruling, despite your small hiatus. Besides, anyone with a small lick of common sense can dictate orders around. What takes the skill is carrying them out. Though maybe that's just a bias from living in such a long, democratic system.
democracy. We've read a mention of that in one of Twilight's letters about you, but she didn't go into detail.
It is a form of government by the people, I said as we passed by an eerily lit carousel boutique. Looks like Rarity picked up too many orders again. The people are allowed to vote on issues, and whoever they want to rule them. There's a very big problem with democracy, however. It allows the majority complete control. If the majority of people decide that, for example, to ban reading because they don't like it, the minority has no power to stop it. And that's why my people created the idea of a republic. We were passing by Sugarcoop Corner at the point, and the bakery at which Pinkie Pie worked.
Such a building would not have existed 1,000 years ago.
Numa commented, looking at it.
We had bigger concerns than fitting themes to a simple bakery.
It's a bit more than a bakery, but that's understandable. It does look rather off, though not as bad as Rarity's shop that we passed a few minutes ago.
Continue your explanation, please.
I shrugged and thought where I left off. After a second, I continued. A republic is a democracy with limits. Everyone has certain rights that cannot be taken from them. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of press, stuff like that. People elect a small number of representatives to vote on issues that just about anyone can put forward. No one can put into action anything that denies anyone of the unalienable rights, however. She stopped, looking towards the park we were passing. My gaze joined her as we watched a couple holding each other on the bench, peering up at the stars.
Another thing that would not have occurred.
She whispered, looking away.
If it had, I wouldn't have...
Things have definitely changed, I said, nodding. You'll probably find more ponies awake at night more than ever before.
I might have to explore then.
I suggest the cities. If they're anything like they were where I came from, they'll have an extremely active nightlife with parties and all kinds of fun stuff.
This is something to consider.
She started walking yet again.
Are you done with your explanation then?
My feet joined her hooves in a slow walk down the cobbled roads of Ponyville. Not quite, but mostly it's a very rare historically based concept. I took a second to think about it before nodding and starting again. It was a system designed by people who had been abused by monarchy, and allows for the changing of leaders every certain number of years with a system in place that if leaders need to be removed sooner. I have thought long and hard on it, and I can see no reason why ponies would ever need such a system, or any way to make it applicable here anyway.
Oh? And why is that?
Everyone here has an inside role in life. They may pick it themselves, but it will be something they will always be able to do. This includes the leaders. Why would ponies need to vote in new leaders if the only leaders they get are specifically born to lead? And why would they need a new ruler if the ones they have are wonderful, eternal, and benevolent? It's a perfect system that couldn't exist in my world.
I see. So why bring it up at all?
I mentioned it to Twilight, or maybe Spike, before I knew much about your people. And then you asked about it. I was merely doing my civic duty and informing my princess about a matter in which she was ignorant. She didn't seem overly enthusiastic about my answer, for whatever reason, so I decided to change the subject. Do your feet get cold in the weather, or do your hooves protect them as well?
I am very used to the cold. Remember, I spent 1,000 years on the moon.
That's hardly an answer to my question, princess.
Yes, my hooves do get cold. I'd imagine yours do as well with that strange protection or not.
Back where I come from, we don't get much cold weather. Hell, it really dips below freezing. No one here knows how to make human shoes, so I'm forced to wear the warm weather shoes I had back home. I'm freezing.
Then shouldst thou not be inside?
She impassively asked.
There's less chill to be found there.
Hey, what happened to learning how to speak modernly? I asked with a smile, once more trying to change the subject.
Is that a building there a schoolhouse?
She asked, pointing out to that was, indeed, a school. Yeah, I think the teacher's name is Cheerly.
Yet another thing that's different. There was no public education before. It is strange to find how it is now.
I can imagine. So, again, what happened to speaking modernly? She snorted and asked,
Are all humans this stubborn, or does the dubious honor go to thee?
I lifted an eyebrow at her.
To you, then.
Nah, it's that all men are this stubborn. Or at least when we know we're right, which is usually, since we usually are right. She harumphed. Oh, and I had a question for you, by the way. I said. I heard one of Twilight's friends talking about Princess Celestia's having a nephew. If you were trapped on the moon for 1,000 years, how does that work out? Or is he also really old?
She runs an adoption agency. I don't know why they all started calling her Auntie Celestia, but she decided not to stop it, so they all became our nieces and nephews. That said, there aren't that many orphans in Equestria, so not many go through her agency.
That clears that up. I was thinking there had to be a third sister no one ever mentioned. We walked in silence for a bit, before she asked,
Did you leave any pony important to you behind on your world?
Where did that come from? Oh, this could end poorly. Just family. I never made many friends. If my school wasn't so small, I'm sure my disappearance wouldn't have ever been noticed. Other than the sudden lack of something not being a complete sarcastic dick to the teachers, the only thing I was known for in my school was my scathing and dark wit, directed at anyone that made themselves an enemy. To be quite honest, I consider the spell that brought me here to be a kindness to the world I left behind. Even now, I'd still prefer to be home.
And what of us, then? Do you consider yourself such a blight on our kind?
To be honest, yes, but in a different way. I'm a corrupting influence on your people. I try not to be, but of what I say drives people to think, and many of those thoughts aren't always pleasant. I make people think about things from my world, about the problems I left behind, rather than to the peaceful setting that is their own world. This could help some of the common ponies grow more mature, but they have no reason to mature. It's strange, having so few people I can truly talk to anymore for the fear of saying the wrong thing. I want the ponies to continue living in relative harmony in their world, which might be difficult should I truly attempt to befriend some of them. But I imagine that my problems are of little interest to a princess.
You told me that I should befriend my subjects, Navarone, that I should care for them and their concerns. You are now one of my subjects, are you not? So we should and do care about thy concerns and problems. You are free to tell me about your wish, Navarone.
I snorted. Looks like I'll be a bad influence on you then. My problems are my own, princess. I shouldn't have even said anything. She stopped in her tracks, and it took me a second to realize she wasn't walking next to me. When I did, I turned to face her.
Navarone, that is a poor decision to make,
Luna said.
You know of my past, of Nightmare Moon. That entity was born from my silence, from allowing my concerns and problems to eat away at me with no release. Wouldst thou truly risk such a fate for thyself, and risk the harm that might inflict upon others? Twilight's letters you speak of many things, but none mention selfishness. Your problems are your own, but there are many who would be willing to share them.
And you're one of them?
Yes, Navarone, I am one of them.
I looked away, not wanting to meet her determined gaze. I'll think about it. Talking like that would be new to me.
Think quickly, then,
she said, beginning once more to walk. I fell in at her side as the two of us slowly padded through the dark streets of the town. So, I learned more about the festival, I said after a round of minute of silence. She tilted her head to indicate she was listening as I told her what I knew about the coming holiday. She listened in silence, and when I finished I could tell she wanted to use her booming voice to show some form of anger, but forced herself to quiet.
We did not expect this,
was her first response.
But then, we were also the villain for a good while.
She sighed.
We are not surprised. I am not surprised. Disappointed, perhaps, but not surprised. I suppose I shall find friends elsewhere than in this little town.
She raised her wings to go. Hold on, princess, I said. She stopped looking at me. You aren't Nightmare Moon. You're Princess Luna. This festival isn't about you. It's about what you were, not who you are. You should take this as a chance to prove that you're better than the legends make you out to be.
I will think about it. Thank you, Navarone.
She took off. Could have gotten worse, I guess. There we go. Man, a lot of chapter releases with Luna recently. Surely that's just a coincidence, and not leading up to a big project coming out on Christmas, surely not. My jokes aside, I would love to thank my wonderful Patreons. Thank you to my Tier 1 Patreons, Chase Lemaster, Starlight Blaze, Sword Brethren Mordred, Thine Tiny Equine, Squall Windfeather, Stu Hex, and Rain Flicker. My Tier 2 Patreons, Captain Blue Shadow, The Animated Ghost, Solus, HKH4 aka Texture, and of course a large thank you to Silent Titan. If you want other ways to support my video while your viewership is more than enough, however leaving a like, comment, and of course subscribing does mean a lot to me, and I appreciate it a ton. Anyway, this has been Firehearth. Have a wonderful day.